MashaAllah, we have a good house. So let us start. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Noman. I'm founder and CEO of Supply Chain Talks, and it is an absolute pleasure to host this insightful webinar on revolutionizing cold chain logistics in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Trends, innovations, and Vision 2030 milestones. As we navigate a transformative era in logistics, particularly in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the cold chain sector is becoming increasingly demand of food safety, healthcare, and sustainability under the ambitious Vision 2030 framework. Today, we have an incredible panel of industry leaders and my good friends with us. Firstly, Tahir Malik, Managing Director for with Unipart Logistics, Serge Boustany, Managing Director for KSA and Bahrain with Kuehne and Nagel, and Yasir, Taufik, Chief Supply Chain Officer for Binzagr Company. Together, we will explore the evolving landscape of cold chain logistics in the kingdom, and sustainability, and the opportunities and challenges ahead. I encourage all of you to engage, ask questions, and make the most of this session. You can put your questions in the Q&A section, and we will inshallah. So let us dive into the important conversation and uncover insights that can shape the future of logistics in KSA. Thank you, and let us get started. So I will just jump in right in, and Serge, my first question is for you. Let me just change the settings. I will do it once Serge is responding. And my first question for you is regarding the current landscape assessment. Can you provide an overview of the current state of cold chain logistics in the kingdom? What strengths and challenges are most apparent today?
Absolutely. So, Noman, thank you for this opportunity. I'm really happy and excited for discussion with the lovely peers, the lovely audience. Uh, so, from a market perspective, I believe when we look at Saudi Arabia, the biggest economy here in the region and largest nation available of expectations, especially when it comes to chain that and the healthcare sector. So, uh, Kingdom has been always big in terms of local setup, in terms of station, in terms of warehousing, but with the Vision 2030 and with the growth in Saudi Arabia, uh, especially with the growth in population, the demand on cold chain has. In addition to that, I think the regulations be the focus better, higher quality standards and providing better supply chain in the kingdom has also increased the challenges on the service providers in the market. So those are some of the challenges. So we've seen in the last years a big change in that. A lot of investment is happening, especially with the local setup, with the warehousing, with the station, with the local solutions being provided to upgrade and upscale the chain setup in the kingdom. Just a quick overview.
Thank you very much. And I would request if Tahir or Yasir would like to add a few cents to it as well. I would not say 2 cents, but a few cents.
Yeah, I'll let Yasir to take lead, no problem.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, hi everybody. From what I'm seeing, whether during the last couple of years or even before that, there is a surge when it comes to the way that commerce is going in Saudi, and that is not only related to cold chains, but the highest jump that we're seeing is on that. We're seeing there's a lot of elements that are impacting that and in a positive manner. I think there is a lot to be done to make sure that we're optimizing the usage and making sure that we can make the best out of it. As the kind gent said, the way that the vision is going is pushing everything in terms of supply chain, logistics, to make sure that we can meet the demands. So it's a really interesting time and an exciting time.
Thank you, Yasir, and thank you, Serge. I'll just add my sense that certainly cold supply chain is is an important factor, keeping in mind that we are serving 36.9 million population. So keeping in mind the size of the population versus the total GCC population, certainly this is a big topic, and it's a very important topic that we should talk about, because food security is becoming a major topic in our conversations. Pharmaceutical is becoming another conversation in our discussions every day. So keeping that in mind, Noman, it's a very, very important topic to discuss. And there are evolving trends which we'll be certainly talking in the forthcoming discussion. Thank you.
Perfect. See, I just realized that out of the four of us, it is only Tahir who is actually enjoying the cold weather of Saudi Arabia right now. And we are talking cold logistics. And so it's only Tahir sitting in Riyadh enjoying the extreme beautiful weather, winter weather of Riyadh.
It dropped down to 3 degrees, and it was my headquarters in London. And in London, it was 8 degree, and Riyadh was 3 degree, and they were jealous of me.
And the best part is that when you interact with your global partners, they get the shock of their life that Saudi has winters. And I tell them that, yes, Saudi has all the seasons. It depends on which part of Saudi you are. You can enjoy the snowfall, you can enjoy the rain, you can enjoy winter, you can enjoy spring, everything. So, alhamdulillah. So moving forward, I think the next, Yasir, if you can take up the next question, which is basically, how has Vision 2030 influenced the development of cold chain logistics within the kingdom? And what changes do you anticipate in the next 5 years, especially ideally the next 6 years, I would say, once we achieve the milestone of Vision 2030 and 2030?
For starters, the commercial part of the vision was all about making sure that they bring in so much businesses into Saudi, and that has happened and is happening as we speak, with a very important part of it related to that would require cold storage, whether we're talking about poultry, meat, or actually going into, let's say, ice creams, chocolates, and so on and so forth, whether it's chilled or whether it's frozen. Now, that has had an impact, because today, if you look at the demand versus the supply of availability, it has had a major impact. Plus, keeping in mind, the country is doing a lot of changes in terms of whether it's the districts or the areas that need, let's say, refurbishment or are part of the plans. So that impacted in whatever cold stores were there were reduced, because some of them were in those areas that were destroyed. Now, how does that help? It helps because it gives the ability for construction of more modernized, more available based on the need of cold stores. Because if you look today, so many cold stores that are available were built based on how commerce was happening before. And that means you're talking about deep racking, and that doesn't help, as an example, something like ice creams, where basically you have a huge number of SKUs, you have a huge number of items, and you need more pick faces than you need deep racking. So this is just an example, but the opportunity right now is increasing exponentially.
So true, so true. Serge, and your input from a Kuehne perspective when we talk about this.
So I think you actually invited the right person to this call, Yasir, because Binzagr has been leading in their investment in this domain, and I think they thought well ahead of many other players in the market. By the way, can you hear me well?
Yes,
I
yes.
just changed the microphone setting. Okay, perfect.
It's much better now.
Perfect, perfect. Good to hear. So yeah, I think the with the vision, there's a lot of investment that is being invited, to come into the country, invest in the country. There are many service providers that are investing. Some warehouses maybe opened recently, some will open soon, that are cold chain related. In addition to that, there's a lot of investment happening in the local transportation sector. So I think Vision 2030 has really pushed things forward in a very fast pace. And what to expect maybe in the next 5 years, I think maybe the quality of service offering in the market will be much better than what it is today. I think also the government is working very heavily on the bonded zones, the free zone setup, which will enable Saudi to be more of a regional hub for the countries around. So with all of that happening, I think in the next 5 years, with more investments coming, with better infrastructure being put in place, the cold chain will be in a much better position, and we will be looking into Saudi being a real hub for the region.
Correct. I think before I ask Tahir to give his 2 cents over here, I would just like to, when you talk about cold chain, I remember my first cold chain project that was very start of my career. That is 22 years back, for a pharmaceutical. That it was our first supply of, drug, medicine coming from Germany, sample shipment coming in, and talking to each and every government authority that the temperature cannot move. It has to be maintained at 4 degree. It cannot move here and there, and nobody knew how to manage. And then the whole cold chain. That was my first exposure to cold chain early on. So yes, and at that time there was no technology. The only thing that we had was a data logger that we had, and we could only know at the end of the whole cycle once we plug it into the computer. But now the technology has changed. So before I go into the next question, Tahir, if you would like to add in, then I will go to the technology part of this discussion.
Yeah, certainly. Both colleagues, Serge and Yasir, have already explained that there are a lot of investments taking place. Especially Vision 2030 has really transformed the logistics infrastructure. There are multi-million dollars of or billion dollars of investment into the logistics sector, including the cold supply chain. And there is an aim of doubling the warehousing space by 4%. That certainly is on one of the agenda which the government is following up, because we know that the total cold supply chain or cold warehousing space is in big demand. Yasir, I'm sure being one of the end users, you must be struggling to secure those temperature control spaces from different players. So it is definitely an important aspect that we need to have more warehousing space. And keeping that in mind, government is also investing into that segment. At the same time, government is investing into the establishment of integrated logistics zones. One is already established in Riyadh, and I am employee number one in that zone, by the way. Then right now we are over 200 employees. At times I'm standing in front of those 200 employees, I feel like being Adam. So, but it's growing, and it's a future of Saudi Arabia. At the same time, recently we have seen the Jeddah integrated logistics zone coming into play. So there are a lot of changes happening, and that's the changes in the right direction.
I will add, and even though Yasir should talk about that, but I will add to what Tahir bhai just said, that Binzagr is not just the end user, they're also the service provider when it comes to cold chain. And I remember during COVID, they were one of the biggest partners of NUCCO for the COVID-19 vaccines. Their gate facility was the epicenter of everything, of the supply chain of COVID vaccines for Jeddah and the rest of the country.
Yeah, that's correct. It's something that we're very proud of. During those difficult times, we were able to help out, and I salute everyone from the team who was part of that. Now, and you're right as well, as service providers, we do cold chains are part of our business. And as Tahir said today, let's just put it this way, supply to demand, it's not comparable. The way things are moving in all different sectors that require cold storage or chilled, frozen, whatever it is today reaching record high versus the supply that's available.
So true. So true. And I agree. Right now, what I see happening around and the demand which is coming in, I think more and more investment is needed in cold chain. And we are not just talking about warehouses, we are talking about transportation sector as well. We are talking about people, people who understand the cold chain. Ambient warehousing, ambient transport and everything, everybody, understand this. But cold chain is a different league game, totally. And without the right technology, with the kind of quantum that we are seeing around us, with the companies coming in and again food safety, pharma regulations, SFDA requirements. So without technology, nothing can happen. And my next question, Tahir, I would like to put it to you that what technological innovations are making the most significant impact on cold chain logistics for the kingdom, and how are these technologies improving efficiency and reliability?
Since you already mentioned your personal experience around 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So there was
20.
only data loggers, and now certainly things have changed, and there are a lot of investments, especially on the live tracking of those uh, uh, those temperature control products which are on the move, specifically in the pharmaceutical sector. So technology is playing a key role to ensure that from a compliance point of view, because if we are going to Ministry of Health and asking for a permit to transport the pharmaceutical products, for example, and they are very stringent about it. They say that, okay, whether your vehicle is equipped with those live tracking capability where it can control the temperature and not only control the temperature, but can send those signals at the right time. So Internet of Things, data loggers, live tracking. So these are the things which are making sure that those technological advancement is in the right place to ensure the integrity of the product while during the supply chain. That's becoming very, very important. While in the warehouse, obviously, there are other technological advancements which are important in terms of different types of racking systems or retrieving systems being in place. But I will let Yasir to talk about it because he is already managing these type of products in Saudi Arabia.
So I think Yasir, Tahir has already given the mic to you.
Yeah, actually, Tahir is 100% correct. There are a lot of advancements, whether it's related to systems or related to, let's just say, advancements in technologies related to whether it's drones, whether it's robots that would help, whether it's in retrieval of the pallets or case picking. There are many things to be done, but an integral part of that would be how the design of a WMS in a cold chain would be done such that it requires the minimal amount of manual intervention when getting the product, but it has to be done with speed and efficiency. So that's where, whether it's within the WMS, the way the put away is designed, all of that is super important today to make sure that the manual labor doesn't require effort that can be avoided. That has to be considered.
Perfect. Sergio, over to you. Your input, please.
Sure. So,
Technology part.
absolutely. So I think from a technology perspective and with the speed that technology is really evolving year over year, we've seen the kingdom evolving, especially around the cold chain and technology usage. Back in the days when SFDA, started working on the data loggers and then, enhancing the requirements and putting very clear standards in place, and then technology further developed with a product, for example, that we provide our customers, which is a data logger that provides you a real-time tracking when you're shipping cargo all over the world by air, by sea. You would be able to track your cargo, check the temperature, the humidity, the location of your product, which is something that would have been impossible a few years ago, right? So a lot of technology is happening with that. I can add something that I'm personally experiencing, something that we are using every day today is AI and blockchain. So we've been incorporating that with our day-to-day work, and it is really helping uh, our team to provide better efficiency, better on-time visibility to our customers and partners. So and it's also ensuring the safety of the product, right? Cold chain is a very sensitive product and requires this full time, on time, real time tracking. So technology is playing a big role. And of course, it goes further within the customs process, transportation process, and warehousing process that our colleagues have covered.
Again, it takes me back to my first supply chain job. I was with Sanofi Aventis. I was a planner over there. And I remember we went into, obviously, since medicine and everything, it has to be a chilled environment. Some for the vaccines, it had to be cold and everything. Now everything is live tracking, dashboards are there and everything. I recall we had one gentleman who was an employee, and his role was only to go and take readings of each and every thermometer in the warehouse, the mercury thermometers on the walls, and to take the reading every hour of each and every one and keep a record and enter the reports and from the freezers and everything. So just imagine 20 years from where we were doing manual readings, and now where we stand that nobody has to move anything and everything is there on your dashboard. You get those alarms if something, the temperature goes up and down, live tracking of equipment and vehicles and data, reefer containers and everything. So a lot has definitely come here. Serge, I would like to continue with the next question with you, and this is more to do on the sustainability and green logistics. That
Sure.
Sustainability is one of the key pillars of Vision 2030. So, what measures are being implemented right now in the industry, in the logistics industry, to ensure that cold chain logistics align with the environmental goals? And how can multiple and different stakeholders balance cost and sustainability? Because there's usually a big price tag when we start talking about sustainability. So, please, your 2 cents.
Yes. It's like when you want to eat organic food, you have to always pay more, right?
Extra, yeah.
So it's a very important topic, and we talk more and more about it as we go, especially in Saudi Arabia. It's part of Vision 2030, as you said, and there's a lot of areas that we can tackle. So from a sustainability perspective, so let's start with the shipping, right? So when you're moving cargo internationally by air or by sea, there are solutions that are there on the table, but as you said, it is not the cheapest. So when you're moving by air freight, we can talk about sustainable air fuel. There are a lot of solutions that we can provide that can help with that. Uh, yeah, sorry. There are also other solutions that we can provide with sea freight. So when you're moving as well by sea freight, you can either move cargo based on biofuel, so you pay a little bit of additional premium, but then we will purchase biofuel that can help with further sustainability across vessel movements. There's also another option that is provided, which is offsetting. So if you like, you are able to again pay an additional premium for offsetting, and then we will use that money to cover, let's say, the CO2 emission that was used when you were moving your cargo, and we can use that with planting trees or doing other sustainable actions that can help the environment. So there are different means that are provided for air and sea logistics that can help. But again, cold chain, having a refrigerator on consuming more electricity. So definitely cold chain and sustainability are not best friends, but there are always means. Yes, it will cost more, but it is there on the table, and it is a solution that logistics people can consider. Then we move to trucking. We talk about e-trucks. It's something that we started seeing in Saudi Arabia, which is very impressive and very important. And of course, from a warehousing perspective, there are also different means by using solar, and I can leave it maybe to Yasir or Tahir to talk more about that. But from a sustainability perspective, the expectations are really high in the kingdom, and I think we have a lot of work to do.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, Tahir, Yasir.
Yeah, so I agree with Serge here, and I think the government is taking a leading role here. So I'll go down Noman's route and go years ago, where he wants us to feel old. So if you go back, I'm not going to even say 20 years, 10 to 15 years, nobody would be talking about sustainability when it comes to any of the conferences or any of the sessions or so on. Today, you have regulations that are being put into place that encourage, if not enforce, the different companies to make sure that they go down that sustainable route. The first of them is on trucking, and trucking now has regulations and rules that make sure that the models that are being brought in or used are as eco-friendly as possible. In the warehouses, there is, let's just say, the activation of solar usage is now possible. I mean, I'm really happy to say that we've started using solar energy in our cake facility, and that's as close as a month and a half ago. Now, it's something that's evolving because we're learning as we go. But at the same time, it allows for new opportunities on how we can be more eco-friendly. I mean, even inside the warehouse, the kind of MHEs that are being used are way different than the standard diesel ones that were there 20 years ago and stuff like that. So there's a lot that can be done, but we can see that it's starting.
Awesome. Amazing stuff.
Thank you, and Sergi and Yasir has very wisely covered most of the topics, and keeping in mind that Vision 2030 that Saudi Arabia has committed to 50% of energy coming from renewable sources. So that certainly is a big task, and by 2060 they have committed to net zero goal. So certainly keeping that in mind, there are many initiatives which all international and local companies are being asked to deploy, including solar energy usage in the warehousing sector or e-trucks, which Sergi has rightly mentioned. So goals are there, aims are there. So the green initiative is in action, and we are I'm in Riyadh, and I'm seeing that the green park being developed, which aims to reduce Riyadh temperature by 5 degrees by 2030. So there are ambitious goals which government is putting in place to ensure that the sustainability goals are going in hand with the cold supply chain. Thank you.
Perfect. So the next, we'll move on to the next question. Yes,
No,
Serge,
man.
please. Yeah.
Just on sustainability, there's also one very important topic that I think is important to discuss is the reporting. So we are now at an age where the customer who has their goods moving can request for a report. Now they can get visibility on how much of CO2 emission is being produced because of their goods being moved, and there are reports that we can provide. It can really help to understand where you stand, what can you do to do less CO2 emission, and what initiatives we can work together to overcome that. So that's also very important to highlight.
Yes, perfect. Because it allows you to even define that what supply route you need to take, that how it can be broken down into different areas and different supply channels where your carbon emissions or your carbon footprint reduces basically then. So
Exactly.
yes, definitely reporting helps taking the right decisions. Uh, Perfect. Thank you, Serge. Next question is for you, Yasir, and this has to do with you being a local. You have lived all your life over here. Unlike us, we have just started enjoying Saudi Arabia. We are newbies. As we were mentioning earlier as well, that Saudi has a varied climate over here. And again, it's very cold as well. And the biggest challenge for cold chain logistics is the extreme climate that Saudi Arabia has. It's the majority desert area, high temperatures. Riyadh easily can hit 55 plus, during the daytime. So from that perspective, what are the main operation challenges in maintaining an efficient cold chain in such climatic challenges? And what best practices or solutions are being adopted in the industry to overcome these obstacles?
So definitely you're correct. So especially when we're talking about the summer, whether it's in the eastern province, the central, the west, or wherever around Saudi, I mean, maybe less at the south, but the pressure that happens to make sure that the cold store is maintained in a proper way becomes extreme. And the companies now, it's a must that they need to have the, let's say, reserve generators ready to make sure that the compressors are going on 24/7. But what this creates is a different kind of challenge, because it means that we need to make sure that we can satisfy the demand with the least amount of touch points on the product itself, making sure that the forecasting is intact such that you don't require product that would be idle or redundant. You want to reduce waste. You want to make sure that, and that only happens, it doesn't happen only at the warehousing end. It goes back to the planning to make sure your SNOP is in place, to make sure that that sync is correct such that the product doesn't fall under that risk in the first place. But when you talk about it physically, the vehicles that you're using, I mean, a simple exercise that we did was we tried to put the refrigerators on vans to make sure that it would be easier to get into the market, and that's not really that possible because the refrigerator eats from the space that you're keeping on the van. So it means you need to go with diners. Now, today, with the regulations that are there, that means that's technically a heavy vehicle. So
Yes.
the whole route to market needs to be properly optimized such that the product, because, I mean, example, ice creams. Ice creams are available in every single kind of channel or commercial outlet. It's there in groceries. It's there wherever you go. So to make sure that that flow doesn't take a hit, and even in winter, nobody stops eating ice cream. I mean, it's a habit
The
that's
best
there
one.
and
That's
people
the best
enjoy.
climate and temperature to eat ice cream.
You,
Exactly.
you have to meet my wife.
So with that said, that means that the quality of the product has to remain top notch all the time. The quality of service has to remain top notch to enable that, and that's where the real challenge happens.
Perfect. I think the ice cream is definitely an excellent example because the demand is, I would say that the demand should increase in the winter time, and that is there. So again, based on your experience, Sergi and Tahir, on this part, the climate, uh, please.
So maybe I can talk about the challenge. You know, when you're moving cargo, there are a lot of hands that are, you know, touching that shipment, and basically one of the most important things we do is when we are, you know, optimizing and planning to move a cold chain or a temperature controlled shipment, there are different means, different types of packaging that we can consider, different routes that we should consider, and we have to do all of that. This is a very important exercise that will really enable us to get that shipment to destination in the safest and most protected possible way. In addition to this, one challenge that comes to my mind is physical inspection at customs. So it was a much bigger challenge in the past, but we've seen a big progress on that, on the way how, customs are now managing the shipments, making sure that they maintain the right temperature, the right packaging. Also, a lot of efforts have been put by SFDA, by the airport handling agent, by the port authorities to ensure the safety of the product. So there's a big progress that has happened. There are always areas to improve on, but I think operationally, that area is always an area that every country in the world can always look into improving. And we should not forget that Saudi Arabia, especially in the summer season, temperature is really high, and packaging types of packaging play a big role in protecting your cargo. So there are different means, different solutions, and unfortunately, sometimes we really have to uh, go extra mile in convincing partners and customers to invest a little bit more in better packaging to ensure that their cargo is safe.
So true. Correct. I 100% agree, Tahir. Especially from a perspective of, I'll make a little twist. From the perspective of how bonded zone can play a part in such challenges. You have an experience on the bonded zone, especially.
Yeah, from bonded zone point of view, the speed of moving goods in under bond, under a transit declaration, certainly where the Sergi was talking about how many hands will touch the
Yes,
cargo.
yes,
So
exactly.
that is where the speed of movement is improved or can be improved further. Still the problem remains in terms of having enough warehousing spaces in the bonded zones. At this point of time, this concept of integrated logistics zone is in infancy. So still the bonded zone space, so integrated logistics zone is different than a bonded zone. So because in terms of the free movement of the goods. So integrated logistics zones are still being created by the government. There is need to invest more in these type of facilities, and along with the having enough warehousing space. I think one of in another important topic is that having enough capability from a transport point of view on the road, like having those equipped small vehicles, dynas, which you call it, Yasir, where I have personally seen in Saudi Arabia because I was working with one of the Brazilian joint at one point of time in Saudi Arabia in food sector. And the biggest problem which I was personally facing as an operation manager, that the vehicle breaks down, the temperature control system breaks down on the way in the heat of 50 degrees. And then we were having those problems where the product is not able to maintain its integrity. So
Mm.
in the wastage of the product is another uh, issue which we come across due to non-availability of having enough modern vehicles on the road who have enough capability to transport goods. But importantly, another aspect which I want to highlight is the people part, because I still believe that logistics is a sector where having enough talent who knows how to handle the temperature control logistics supply chain is another area which we must talk about, because, okay, managing a parcel from point A to B is same, managing a pallet from point to A to Z is same. But in the end, when you are managing whole supply chain, the ball game is entirely different, right?
Mm.
Because those guys have to ensure the shelf lives, the data integrity, the food security, and many other compliance part as well. So I think having right people in the supply chain sector is also very important.
Actually, I would add to what Tahir is saying. The people usually underestimate the quality part of the business and how it's an integral part of logistics or supply chain in general. I'll go back to the ice cream example. if the ice cream is moved out of its preferred temperature, and then it goes back again, basically it crystallizes. And what happens then is whoever will eat it at the end of the day will not enjoy it. So by ruining that experience, that will affect the product and so on. Awareness is something that has to go hand in hand with whatever advancement we want to do. So whether it's the guy in the warehouse, whether it's the driver, whether it's the customer himself, and that's where the beauty of supply chain happens, but at the same time, it's the major difficulty that comes with it. So to make sure that the product reaches the end consumer with the right quality that was intended, there is a lot to be done.
I think also seasonality is a major challenge, right? Like the overstocking that needs to happen before Eid, and the capacity and non-availability of proper cold chain storages, and the way how you will sometimes have to pack and overstock within a warehouse just to cater for that volumes just before the Eid. So I think maybe Yasir or Tahir have many more examples on that, but that's a major challenge.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, actually, one of the biggest spikes we have on ice cream consumption is actually during Hajj, where a lot goes to the Hajj area, whether it's Arafat or Mina, and that's where I mean, honestly, it's a benefit that we're blessed with, that we can help the pilgrims with. But that puts extra pressure because the amount of turnover and the amount of vehicles that need to go into those areas in a very short period of time to be able to provide is immense. And to make sure that it maintains the quality, that's where
That's the
it becomes.
challenge.
Yes, exactly.
You mentioned Hajj, and when me and my wife went for Hajj, I think the best part, apart from the Hajj itself, was the ice cream that we were able to eat in our camp throughout the whole day. With the heat outside and then enjoying the ice cream, the best. That was the most memorable. Apart from the Hajj itself, the second most memorable part was the ice cream that we were enjoying. So again, thank you to all the cold chain guys who
Thank
made
you,
it
Yasir.
possible.
Anytime.
One more thing. Before we move on, I will move to Tahir for the next question. But since Tahir mentioned the integrated logistics zone, for the people who are listening in, already Tahir and myself, we are discussing our next webinar to focus on the ILZs in KSA. So very soon we will be announcing that as well. That is something that Tahir and myself are in discussion to how to make it a very wholesome and talk about ILZ for the kingdom. So just as a point. So coming to my next question, Tahir, this one is for you, and that is to do with the investment in partnerships within the kingdom in the domain of cold chain. That what role do you see public and private partnership, and especially the international collaborations? And I think that is something that in our meeting with you, Serge, in your office, we talked about how Kuehne Nagel looks into this area as well.
True.
Collaborations are playing in enhancing cold chain infrastructure in the kingdom, and how can these partnerships can further be strengthened? So, Tahir, over to you, please.
In that sector, I think we need to. I would like to highlight two important aspects. One is the food security side, where government has established SALIC. I'm sure you people know. SALIC is a PIF entity where government is investing. It was established in 2012. So SALIC is responsible to enhance the food security and contributing not only for Saudi food security but the global food security as well. So and then SALIC is investing in not only in Saudi Arabia but in Ukraine, Australia, Brazil, etc. into the food security. And main areas of their investment is going into either the meat or in the grain or in the rice. And all of this is when they're also investing with in the local entities like Almarai, Nadik, Nakwa, etc. So to ensure that the food security section, which is protected. So whenever we are talking about these public sector collaborating with the private sector. So this is where the SALIC or the government is playing an important role. So this is with the aim of improving the food supply chain or the cold supply chain availability in the kingdom to ensure that enough food is available to eat for everyone, including ice cream. At the same time, another aspect of is the pharmaceutical. Unipart is a global leader in the healthcare supply chain in UK. NHS whole system is run through Unipart supply chain. What in Saudi Arabia, recently government has in 2022 established the health holding, which basically aims to privatize all the government institution into separate independent entities. So that's where again the government is investing itself and encouraging itself to improvise or modernize the pharmaceutical availability of the products. So certainly it will come with the investment in the cold supply chain as well. So this is where I think the government is playing their role, and at the same time, establishment of the boundary zone, etc., is again another aspect where government is encouraging that enough facilities are available to ensure that the cold supply chain is established successfully in Saudi Arabia.
See, before I give the mic to Sergio Yasir, you mentioned SADC, and before the start of the webinar, I was going through who has registered for the webinar, and there was one gentleman, Daniel from SADC, who had registered for the webinar. I think we all know him, that he handles the investment portfolio for SADC.
Yeah, I know Daniel. Daniel is a friend of mine. So I met him 2 days ago in a forum as well.
Okay. So I think, fine, we will discuss this later. But Sergio, over to you. And Yasir, please.
So yeah, I think from an investment perspective, maybe 2 points I can highlight. One is the investments we're seeing, right, with Unipart, with many other global and local players doing, especially with the bonded zones. It is really going to help the kingdom in the years to come, and to achieve Vision 2030, and to achieve the goals towards, us being here a hub for the region. So this is extremely important, and from our side, we're always exploring areas to invest, partner, do JVs, and one example I can give is a partnership we did last year with a major cold chain and healthcare provider here in the kingdom. So it really enabled us to support our global partners and customers globally and locally, in providing them here a very smooth and professional solution that was not possible maybe without this partnership that we had. So such partnerships, I think, are extremely important, and joining efforts sometimes between two, professional establishments can really provide added value to the market, and we experienced that since last year.
Yeah, actually, I mean, when it comes to collaboration, I believe that's the name of the game today. I don't think we're looking for any more evolution. We're looking for revolutions. And that revolution is by going away and leaving that old way of thinking of, I'll do everything from A to Z myself, regardless of the cost, but I don't need to let anybody into my backyard. Now it's all a matter of, okay, how can we hold hands and make things a win-win? We've already started doing that. I mean, for the last 2 years in the Saudi Supply Chain Conference, I was mentioning this to many people who were talking to me. And actually now we've started. We're talking with whether it's transportation companies, other 3PLs, shipping lines. It's a matter of how can we do things in a more cost-efficient way, but at the same time making sure that we're maintaining that customer satisfaction. So we're trying to balance everything together. For a company to do it all on its own, they either have a lot of cash or they have a lot of time. But today it's a matter of optimizing. The word optimize hasn't been more important when it comes to logistics in Saudi Arabia as it is today.
Perfect. Thank you. I think the next question is more now. We touched about the next topic, and that is to do with the disruptions. And I think in the last 5 years, the level of disruptions that we have experienced is tremendous. Sergey, from your perspective, how would you suggest what strategies would be needed to future-proof our supply chain for the cold chain part against the disruptions? We have seen, starting with COVID, the Suez Canal, then the, Red Sea, then there are so many other
Sure.
things, the container shortages, everything. So everything is piling up, and we are not seeing the end of these disruptions. So what do we have learned, and what do you suggest to the young professionals who are now entering into this arena, that what should they be ready, and how they should be ready for that?
I think this is maybe one of the most important topics that unfortunately not many people tackle. So you can never be 100% bulletproof, but you can always be more prepared and more agile to take action. I think the last few years taught us to be even more prepared. Going back to the COVID, to the canal, to the Red Sea situation, to the global uncertainties and geopolitical situations happening. So, what one nice best practice we are doing, and we find it is extremely helpful, is being closer to our customers and partners and having those regular meetings with them where we just meet and brainstorm. And we do that. So we do regular meetings where we sit with customers and try to brainstorm what can happen, and if that happens, what can we do about that. So the last few years taught us to have a plan B and plan C and plan D. So we do have at the moment several contingency plans. Depending on different scenarios that can happen. And we visit this on a regular basis. And there's no one solution for all customers. So what we usually do is we sit and then we tailor-made solution based on how every customer supply chain needs are. It's a very interesting topic. It requires a lot of thinking. We have supply chain design experts and engineers who sometimes help us to put those thoughts into real practice. And even in the last few months, we've done trials with some of our customers here in the kingdom on those contingency plans. So not only we've put contingency plans, we even did trials that cost definitely more money, but we tried them just to ensure that it really works, just in case it was needed.
Perfect. Yes, sir. Tahir?
Yeah, one of the area which I would like to highlight post-COVID lessons is diversifying supply chain sources and creating those buffer stock in the warehouses. So that is something which obviously is a lesson learned out of the COVID, and this is where I think most of the companies who are engaged in this sector, they have to ensure that enough either the buffer stock is available, either the supply chain sources are diversified enough. At the same time, even within Saudi Arabia is a big country, right? So certainly creating those smaller hubs in between, keeping in mind the transportation sector is still evolving. So in case of any breakdowns, etc., so there should be enough hubs created in the middle to ensure that the supply chain is maintained. At the same time, keeping it closer to the market, because food, the integrity of the product is very, very important, be it food or be it pharmaceutical. So having those diversified supply chain sources or having close to the market warehouse spaces is very, very important.
Yeah, actually, I think that would apply for Riyadh specifically more than, يعني not only the whole country. Riyadh has grown to the point where to get the product from the south to the north of Riyadh takes around minimum 2 hours with the traffic, if not more. Now, if the concept of something like the dark stores or something like that can be applied, but with the right regulation, and I know that the government are going down that route. It's about creating what's called district logistical areas, which would allow the product to go in outside of the truck bans and outside of the traffic times, and then the product would be easily distributed to the different outlets during those times. That's a must. I mean, we have to look for solutions outside of the box, outside of the norm that we were used to before.
Thank you. So I will come to the last question. Then we have two very interesting questions in the Q&A. So, but the last question, that is very important. That is the future of the kingdom. The young talent, the people that are coming out of the universities right now in the kingdom. A lot of focus is there on supply chain, on logistics, and we have a lot of young graduates who are there. And interestingly, I was in a conversation yesterday with someone, and that lady, this is this resume that I shared with both you, Yasir and Serge, and she has an interest in working in a warehouse. And I said, salute to her that, a female is wanting and desiring to work in a warehouse, not sitting in an office, but actually getting their hands dirty and handling the products themselves. So coming to that part, the last part of our session is that, how is the logistics industry preparing to meet the demand for skilled talent capable of driving the forward innovations in cold chain management, and what you as entities are doing to support, the talent development in the kingdom right now? Question for all three of you.
Okay,
That,
so
yes, sir.
I'll start. First of all, there is a lot to be done, and the talent is there, but they're like rough diamonds that need to be nurtured, need to be developed, need to be given the right kind of opportunity to grow. I'm happy to see that some of my team are in this call, and I say hi to them and salute them. But honestly, I'm blessed with having them because they show a hunger for growth that is very much, it's what we as management want to see. I'm happy to say that in our cake facility, we have a full shift that are females. The shift leader started from the very beginning, and to see that passion and that desire to grow, not just in the warehouse, but also from a whole supply chain perspective, supply and demand, customer service, all of these things can be handled by a talented group, but it requires the right kind of focus, development, and encouragement. I mean, there has to be that kind of support from management to allow them to grow, and that's something that I'm happy to say we want to give. We're linked with the Saudi Logistics Academy, and that's honestly an initiative that can only be applauded and supported. So we get a number of academy graduates every year. We work on them. We work on improving them. The only difference is things are being done in a much more structured way than, let's say, when I was in the university. It's a very different ball game today. But at the same time, the talent is very much there. That myth that the talent is scarce, I think it's non-existent anymore.
Perfect.
Yeah, very true. I think what's really important when we talk about talent and getting the right talent, it's very important that the management in every logistics company is really sincere about it. So we can talk about, getting talent and developing talent, but I think we have to be very sincere in really recruiting the talent and developing that talent, training that talent, and retaining that talent. There's a lot of work that is happening in the background. In KN, for example, we as well have partnered with the Saudi Logistics Academy. We received so far 2 or 3 batches of amazing people. They joined us. They went through a very intensive training, and then many of them succeeded to continue with us as full-time employees. And I firmly believe that those people will be the future leaders of our company here in the kingdom. We also have internship programs with universities, and I think as Yasir said, the talent is there. There's a big potential in the market, but we just need to firmly believe in those talents and push them forward. One also, like, since we're talking about cold chain for the last 1 hour, one also very important topic I can highlight is the trainings we provide related to cold chain. So when you talk about cold chain, we manage healthcare, we manage pharma, we manage food, we manage fruits, we manage flowers, and we have a big flowers business. So we provide GDP training certifications to our team that are very specific to the cold chain movement and to the handling of cargo in different means, by air, by sea, by road, in the warehousing, and this really elevates the level and the knowledge in handling such sensitive cargo.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah,
Very
thank
nice.
you. And
Very
I'll pick up on the example which Noman gave, that there was a lady who spoke to you that she wants to work in logistics. And around 25 years ago, when I started my journey in logistics, people was mocking, saying, "What is this? Who works in logistics industry? It's a business of moving lorries from point A to B, right?" So people didn't know the importance of it. But right now, it has become a very important industry, and getting a degree, master's degree in supply chain logistics, supply chain needs an engineering degree. So people know, the young talent knows about it, and more and more. If we talk about 20 years ago, and you try to find someone who has done masters in supply chain or undergraduation in supply chain, you will find very few people. My daughter has done undergraduation in supply chain and logistics, because this is a field which is evolving. So in terms of talent, yes, I agree. There are people, there is an appetite that people are interested to join the logistics sector. At the same time, I think a lot of coaching is required, and the upskilling is required. One important aspect which I would like to mention here is that the government, although government is sponsoring through different schemes, be it Saudi Logistics Academy or Tamhir program or MERN program, but at the same time, still there is a little bit more to be done in terms of allowing people to work on part times, because this is a regulation which is already being discussed in the logistics zones. And this is allowed in, maybe Sergi knows, in developed world, that, for example, in the morning you can work 4 hours in one warehouse and work in another 4 hours in another warehouse. So this is where I think the regulation has to be revised a little bit, to bring those flexibility, to ensure that the movement of those talent and upskilling is also available for the local people easily.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. And this brings an end to the questions that I had, but we have received two very interesting questions from our participants, and I will share the first one. And since Yasir was touching a lot on the the district logistics zones and everything, and it echoes with that. This is from one gentleman, Omer Haider, and he is asking, what are some major challenges related to cold chain, supply chain in last mile? There will be extreme temperature, cost pressure, returns, and lack of live tracking equipment. How these can be overcome? So, yes, I will request you to answer. Then we move to the next question.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to last mile delivery, there are a number of aspects that all have to go together for it to be a proper delivery. One of them is the quality, of course. And of course, with the climate that varies and of course goes really, really extremely high, making sure that the quality of the product for something that requires cold storage remains intact is a must. But more importantly, the whole concept of last mile delivery is usually centered around two areas. Number one, the customer experience itself, but number two, it's the speed to deliver. So that's why, with the way that the current setup is, where you have certain areas that allow warehouses to be operating in or built in, that need for the let's call it the dark store initiative or idea is really turning into a must, because you need to have that presence available such that the delivery can be swift and smooth. Now, what would that mean? It means that your SNOP goes down another level to make sure that it goes down to district by district. Why? Because what could be a hot item in this area could not be such a hot item in another area. So the level of detail that goes into the planning to make sure that you're sending out the right kind of products becomes extreme. So there are many things that can be done, but it's not just related to the physical presence. My humble opinion, it goes down towards what the customer would require and need. It goes up to how you're sourcing, how you're ordering, how you're forecasting.
Perfect. So true. Thank you. Yasir, the next question is from Ambisat. And the question is, I will ask both you, Serge and Tahir, both of you to tackle this. What is the role of cold chain in reverse logistics, especially when handling temperature control, dangerous goods, and perishables?
Yeah, okay. I'll take this from my personal experience in Saudi Arabia, right? And I talked about it because reverse logistics becomes very, very important, because if the vehicle break down, right? And or for example, my driver reached to the warehouse at a time when the guys were on a lunch break, right? And then the integrity of the product was lost due to some reasons. So that is the time it becomes very important that our systems should be in place to ensure that the reverse logistics is enabled to ensure that those products can be retrieved without compromising the integrity of the product or wastage. So keeping in mind the high value of these products, importance of the reverse logistics is paramount in our industry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I think reverse logistics is very tricky, and it's not usually given the right, let's say, importance.
Important
So
respect.
sorry.
Respect as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you talk about reverse logistics, it's basically for cargo that was maybe rejected or cargo that needs to be returned for whatever reason, and there's a lot of things that we need to consider. You need to consider the temperature, the handling, the packaging that was maybe affected. You need to check the time sensitivity. If we're talking about, I see in the question the word perishable. So
Yes.
there might be shelf life. There might be like maybe the product condition itself. You need to make sure that it is properly managed, it's properly handled. Uh, there's a lot to consider. I see as well in the question the word DG. So as well, you
Yes.
need to make sure exactly. So you need to make sure that from a compliance perspective, you understand what you're managing, how you're managing, how it should be handled. You need to have the right team that is certified to handle that. So that's a very interesting question, and my answer can last for maybe 2 hours talking about this, but it is very important to really give this more attention, and not to always that's something that we notice sometimes with reverse logistics, is that things get rushed, but it is not always the right thing to do.
Correct. There's one last question, and I will handle that because that is a topic that I enjoy. And that is from Aziz Ali. And the question is AI play a role in cold chain management? See, artificial intelligence plays very important role in everything. Is all about how you would like to incorporate that. Yasir was giving the example of the last mile, that in which area, what type of stocks and everything is needed. Right now, without taking the name, Binzagr went live with one of the most beautiful system, which is AI based, to help them completely optimize their inventory management, which DC, which store, which product, and everything. So again, this is all AI based. So right now, the technologies which are coming in, you talk about blockchain, IoT, and everything, AI. These are all technologies that without that you cannot manage the and also automation. Fine, you cannot manage the quantum of goods which are moving right now is globally within the kingdom, not just within the kingdom, on the ports, in the cities, in your neighborhoods right now. Without AI, you cannot. Without technology, without IoT, without this, you cannot. I was going through a system evaluation right now, and the transport management system which are right now being deployed, they take each and every sensor reading of your vehicle, and you don't need to being seeing the odometer of the dashboard of the vehicle. Everything is displayed on your computer. You know exactly what temperature, the data loggers, everything is there. So again, at the end of the day, these are all technologies which play a very major role in making your core supply chain and in general supply chain very effective, efficient, agile, and cost effective at the end of the day. So again, this comes to a close of our session. We talked a good, alhamdulillah, 70 minutes plus. And again, a big thank you to Tahir, to Yasir, to Serge for taking out the time after work on a weekday. And logistics is a never-ending game. You never get to sleep. So a big thank you from my side. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for everyone who joined in and listened to our us talking about cold chain. To every participant, to every person, thank you very much.
I should say on your behalf, subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you, Noman.
Thank you, Serge.
Thank you, Noman, for the opportunity, and Sergi and Yasir.
Indeed.
It was pleasure meeting you. Thank you,
It was a
everyone.
Thank you. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. I'd like to thank everybody. I hope they enjoyed the session, and thank you, Noman, really.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Take
Indeed.
care, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
nice evening,
Assalam.
everyone.
You too.